Janice, are you there?
At your service, sir.
Give me some of that dating foolishness.
Will do, sir.
We recruited other men about the same age as David, Stu, and Rob, but taller. We asked them all to dress in jeans and a sweater, and then we did something cruel. We put them in lineups, 5 at a time, behind a two-way mirror. The men couldn't see or hear what was going on in the next room. That's where we invited groups of women to look at the men and choose a date.
Welcome to Manosphere Highlights Daily. Shout out to Mr. Ramos. I hope I didn't butcher your name. This is his message. Hey Manosphere Highlights, I saw this report on women and how they see men's height. I thought this was pure gold. Been subscribed to your channel for a few years now. Before the woke era, look at how women really cannot get over a man being short. The last form of discrimination out there. Much love and respect. Sincerely, Mr. Ramos. Thank you for this video request. It's pure gold. Salute! For this video, we're going back to the 90s. It's pretty much self-explanatory. We're going to let the video play most of the time. I'll chime in to highlight the things they are not saying in this video, with a particular emphasis on the biological aspects of female behavior in this experiment. Let's get it. Now it's time for us to get into this and do what we gotta do. Because we men, ain't we? We men, ain't we?
Tell me what the women's reaction is when you say you've got someone shorter.
Shorter. 2 inches? Let me think about it. 4 inches? Are you crazy? No.
We asked her to help us construct an experiment to test just how willing women are to date shorter men. And we found 3 brave volunteers. Stu is the shortest. How tall are you?
I'm 5 foot and 5'5" with the afro.
Rob is 5'3". He prefers taller women.
I kind of enjoy it. I mean, I think there are some serious advantages to being having a woman who's a little bit taller.
David is getting married this fall.
She is 5 feet tall.
And you are?
I am 5'6".
Oh, well.
Yeah, giant, right.
We recruited other men about the same age as David, Stu, and Rob, but taller. We asked them all to dress in jeans and a sweater, and then we did something cruel. We put them in lineups, 5 at a time, behind a two-way mirror. The men couldn't see or hear what was going on in the next room. That's where we invited groups of women to look at the men and choose a date.
Cruel is what she said. This is basically what's going on today with dating apps, right? And we all know how that is working out. Let's continue.
In this case, we wanted to see if anyone would pick 5'3" Rob. When Andrea told us women like doctors, we gave him an MD. Their choice?
Andrew. I would say Matt, I think.
No, Rob. We piled on some more assets. We said besides being a doctor, he was also a best-selling author and champion skier who just built his own ski house.
Does that affect your choices?
He's still short.
Then we gave Rob a promotion. We made him chief of staff at a prestigious hospital.
Who would you pick, Kim?
Andrew's probably the closest to who I'd pick. I'd pick Matt. Jeffrey, the pilot.
What would it take? Now we said Rob was also a gourmet cook who loves children.
Oh, definitely. I would take him in a minute then. Height, no problem.
I wouldn't, because I would think I don't want short little kids. I was thinking like...
Well, at least someone liked Rob.
This is where the gold is. How these ladies talk to each other. I'll come back to this later.
But if it was this harsh for him at 5'3", what would it take to get a date for Stu at just 5 feet? First, we made him an up-and-coming actor.
No. No. Not.
Then we said Stu had made millions by age 25.
No.
No?
Not for me.
Nothing worked.
How come nobody picks Stu?
He's too short.
He's too short. Too short?
We asked if there was anything we could add to make Stu irresistible.
Maybe the only thing you could say is that the other 4 are murderers.
Right. Right, are convicted of some crime.
Definitely.
Child molester.
Or psychotic.
Right.
Exactly. And then we would say,
Oh,
okay, hello, Stu.
Right.
I mean, and nothing bad towards him. He's got a nice smile. He's cute.
But no takers.
You heard what she said, right? Then we would say hello, Stu. We. I'll come back to this later.
So we replaced Stu with David to see if 5'6" made a difference. We brought in one last group of women. When they all picked this fellow, we told them he'd been unemployed for 2 years, but that our David was a chief surgeon.
I guess it would be David. For me.
Stu took David right away. But Tara chose Jim, whom we'd made a high school gym teacher.
Would it change anything if I told you that David, besides being a chief surgeon, had just published a book that he was a gourmet cook, loved kids, and extremely wealthy?
Yeah, I'd switch to David real quick. I mean, let's be realistic. I'm gonna bag the gym teacher now.
Notice the laughter, fellas. We've highlighted this in other videos as well. Here is some more laughter.
So what's going on here? You had to make those short guys almost like God to make them desirable, right?
We finally made him God, and that's when they chose.
This laughter is a defense mechanism in response to feeling uncomfortable or realizing the superficiality of their preferences. It's embarrassing for these women to recognize and admit that they are superficial and that even God is not good enough. Women don't like to think of themselves as superficial. Especially the ones who are advocates for body positivity tend to avoid seeing themselves as superficial because doing so creates cognitive dissonance. Fat women don't want to date fat men, short men, ugly men. Body positivity means Chad has to be positive about her body. And like I pointed out earlier, one of the ladies said we would say hello. Women decide as a collective. The opinion of the sisterhood matters. That's why women are keeping themselves single. The sisterhood in modern Western society is a huge red flag. So when women say, not all women are like that, I say, there are not enough of you to make a difference. All women are like that. And here is why.
And this surprises you?
It obviously doesn't surprise you.
No.
Yale psychologist Les Martell is 5'5".
It goes back to caveman times. We simply judge people, particularly men, based on their height, on their size, on their physical presence.
Shout out to the VHS tapes. Shout out to the VCR. This is gold. Everything went out of sync after this fiasco, so we had to fix this issue. Watch the original video and you'll see the difference. Let's continue.
Why is that? We asked several of the women to come back and tell us.
I feel great best friends because they're very enthusiastic, caring, because they have to make up for their height.
But you have no interest in going out with someone shorter than you?
No. I'm just attracted to taller men. I'm only 5'5" myself. But I just like taller men.
Attraction is not a choice. That's the red pill truth, brothers. This is why we don't hate women. It's a reflection of how nature has shaped them. Women have always exhibited these traits throughout history. And this is why I'm enthusiastic about sociology, because you can observe the impact of society on people's behavior. As mentioned earlier, the conditions of this experiment are the norm in modern society. Today, it's not just a group of 5 guys they can choose from, and it's not just a group of 5 guys hitting on them. As a consequence, women tend to fancy the top guys in a much larger dating pool available to them today, which makes it even more challenging for shorter men to find success. Even the average Joe is struggling in today's dating market. So stay off those dating apps. That's Chad and Tyrone's turf.
I have to tell you, and it breaks my heart to tell you this, it turned out that being short was not good. Does that surprise anybody?
I don't think so.
Absolutely not.
Tell me what you were thinking while you were standing out there with the taller guys.
Sure aren't picking us.
You want to look up into his eyes, and you want it to be like a movie.
There's a stereotype in society that says when you find your mate, the man is bigger and the woman is smaller. You know, Tarzan, Jane, and we didn't get to speak, so.
Well, you didn't get to speak, but we spoke on your behalf.
Oh, thanks.
And we made you doctors, chief surgeons, best-selling authors, Stuart, we made you a venture capitalist who made millions by the age of 25. You were a gourmet cook. You loved children. You had ski houses that you built all by yourself. Sometimes all this worked, but most of the time, fellas,
Didn't do a darn thing.
I like how these guys are already aware of the situation.
Well, I guess that says something about people.
What does it say to you?
Maybe the average person isn't giving us the credit that we deserve.
Does it bother you?
You know what it's like to maybe hurt. I think you know what it's like to, maybe to have more setbacks than taller people.
David, you're nodding your head.
Sure.
You think that's
oh,
true?
Yeah. Growing up, you take a lot of abuse. Always being the short one and getting picked on and name calling. It happens.
What this guy said was exactly why I had to laugh at that 2-minute long speech from the Barbie movie, because they presented that movie like men are not going through stuff.
I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us.
Men's issues are not to be taken for granted. Let's take it a step further.
And we found out how very early it begins. We gave elementary school students a test, asking them to match a small, medium, or large figure of a man with a series of words.
Which man is handsome? Which man is yucky?
The kids overwhelmingly picked the tall figure for strong, handsome, smart. They circled the short figure for sad, scared, and weak. More than half also picked the short figure for dumb, no friends, and yucky.
How many of you, when you grow up, want to be tall?
And there's another decision they've already made.
When you grow up and you get married, do you want your husband to be tall, medium, or short?
Tall, 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 tall.
Wow, this is pure gold. These girls are now in their late 30s, early 40s. I wonder what happened to them. Here's another test.
We put Chris and Debbie, colleagues here at ABC News, in front of our camera, posing at different heights. Half the shots showed Chris as the taller of the pair.
The air's kind of thin up here.
In the other half, Debbie was taller. Then we gave the photos to students at Fairleigh Dickinson University and asked them to tell us a story about what was going on. When Chris was taller, the adjectives used to describe him were mature and respected. When Chris was shorter than Debbie, they called him submissive, childish, weak.
Damn! Submissive, childish, and weak. They didn't specify whether it was only the women who said that or if it was the entire group collectively. But it is clear that height does not only affect a man's dating life, but also his life in general.
Is this a frivolous subject?
Not at all. It is really, in my opinion, one of the last forms of discrimination that exists.
Research shows there is discrimination, and not just from dates. One study tracked graduates of a large business school. The taller men got higher salaries, on average, $600 a year more per inch.
There you are.
One man who deliberately and publicly does own up to his size is Robert Reich, the United States Secretary of Labor.
I have assumed for months that I was on Bill Clinton's short list.
At 4 feet 9 inches, his height is hard to ignore.
There is a step. Oh, there is a step here. Let's see.
Secretary Reich has needed that extra lift since childhood.
I remember my grandmother would chart on the wall how tall I was. And we got to 12, and she said, "You're gonna," and then nothing happened. And after a while, we stopped measuring.
Do you think of yourself primarily as a short man?
I have to say, honestly, I don't.
After spending an hour with him, neither do I. Secretary Reich has reached the top in a world that tries to keep short men down. He is happily married to a woman 9 inches taller and has been friends for 3 decades with his towering commander-in-chief. Little wonder he is now a role model.
I do get letters from young people who know that I'm very short, letters from kids who are also very short and who are in some pain emotionally, and they want my advice.
What is that advice?
You do have to accept the fact that other people may feel awkward. You've got to help them with their awkwardness. You've got to use humor. But being short should not stop you, I tell these young people. Should not in any way stop you from doing anything you want to do with your life.
I'm not gonna tell you you can't do anything. However, I want you to be realistic about this. I want you to understand your strengths and weaknesses as a man and have a plan. We're getting emails from men asking for dating advice. I'm not a dating coach, and I'm not a fan of dating coaches. I'm just too honest to sell you a dream, because in my opinion, in the West, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. But like I always say, focus on the information that's consistent. As you can see in this experiment, competition plays a big role. So you need to put yourself in a position where you can have leverage. The short guys I know who have girlfriends are not dating 8s and 9s, okay? They have girlfriends who are below average looking, but have great personalities. So the competition is much lower because these women learn very quickly that they're not going to marry Chad. Another option is to take your talents overseas. I felt like a giant in certain countries. Janice, read.
Shortest countries in the world ranked. Can you guess the nation where average person is barely over 5 feet? Data reveals the top 25 nations home to the shortest people. The data, which shows the average height of men and women combined for each nation, includes 25 nations. The US and UK did not make the list.
Being in a country where the population is naturally shorter can provide you with an advantage or leverage. What's important to you? You're the captain of your ship. A captain without a purpose is a ship adrift on an endless sea.
I think it doesn't matter if a person is tall or short. It matters how big your heart is.
Has anybody, as a result of this conversation, anybody changed her mind on her outlook?
Sure.
Yes. Oh, let's hear.
There's so many men out there, and to single out a certain type is shallow.
It'll be in my head now. It's going to be to look lower and not to literally, and not to pass away short men, because I could be missing out on some wonderful people.
We made this channel for men. That's why we started this channel. Not because we hate women. It's because men's voices need to be heard, and men need to be educated on the foolishness that's going on so they can protect themselves at all times. The channel is called Manosphere Highlights Daily. We highlight men's issues, female nature, and the effects of society on human behavior. We encourage you to become the best man that you can be. But if you want to know how to do push-ups, then you have to go to the push-ups channel. If you want to know about money, you have to go to the money channel. I've said it many times on this channel that I took my talents overseas. I had to look for content that could help me with that. So I watched a combination of channels: push-up channels, money channels, travel channels, language channels, and Manosphere channels. Everything that I had to do to become the best version of myself. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. You know why? Because we men, ain't we? We men, ain't we? Manosphere, we working. Protect yourself at all times. This video has officially been highlighted.